One signature. $40 billion. Your name on the line. Every single person in that room is waiting for you to speak. This is the Fortune 500 boardroom, and you built every inch of it. But 20 years ago, you were nobody. You were the intern, the one nobody remembered the name of, your first paycheck, $1,200. And it felt like $1 million that same city, same ambition, two completely different lives. And the question nobody asks is, was it worth it? Somewhere along the way, you changed completely. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back to the beginning. You grew up in a house where investment meant the fridge fund. Your mother worked double shifts so you'd go to a decent college. You didn't fit in, and you knew it immediately. And that decision would cost everything as though you studied harder than anyone else in that building. The first time professor called on you, your voice shook. You printed 40 resumes, came home with 40 rejections, and an email 41 arrived day one, level one. You were officially an intern. You fetched coffee, printed decks, and sat in the back of every meeting. EBITDA, P&L, burn rate, words that sounded like a foreign language. Lunch breaks were for making connections. You missed that memo, but you stayed late every single night. And one night, your manager noticed the analysis you weren't asked to do. She said 3 words that changed your entire trajectory. 3 words. You have potential. She didn't teach you finance. She taught you how power actually moves. You were 22, and you had just discovered your ambition. You wrote it in your journal at midnight. You told nobody. Something had shifted, and everyone could feel it. The intern phase was over. The real climb was just beginning. Level 2, associate analyst, $58,000 a year. You'd finally arrived, or so you thought. Nobody warned you about this level. Gross salary, $58,000. Take home, $41,000. Welcome to taxes. You had opinions. Nobody wanted them from someone 2 years in. While they celebrated, you were studying. That was the difference. You built a model in your own time. No one asked you to. The document you slid across that desk showed a $4 million gap they had missed. 3 months later. Senior analyst. A door with your name on it. You read 2 books a month. Business, psychology, strategy, everything. You got invited to the senior dinners, and you said almost nothing. You just watched. Year 3, your first solo presentation to the C-suite. The company CEO stopped you on slide 4, not to criticize, to ask a question, and you had the answer every single time. Your manager said, "I've never seen that done by a 26-year-old manager." $94,000 a year. A team of 5 reporting to you. Managing people was nothing like managing spreadsheets. One of your reports openly challenged you on day 2. In front of everyone, that night you asked yourself, am I actually good at this? You almost quit. Level 3. You almost stopped right here. This is where 99% of people give up. This is where 99% of people give up. She drew you one diagram. It changed everything about how you led. You went back. You listened. You changed your approach. It worked. Year-end review. Exceeds expectations. Your first one, they move you to Chicago. Director of Operations. $147. 0.20 people. A $12 million budget. Your first real power. The first time you signed a contract worth more than your parents earned in a lifetime. You were running operations across 3 time zones simultaneously. Your marriage was surviving on 1 more minutes and Sunday apologies. You missed his 3rd birthday. You told yourself it was just one, but the results you delivered. 38% revenue growth in year 1. Vice president. The title that meant you had crossed the invisible line. Business class. $280,000 a year. A world that used to exist only on TV. And for the first time in your career, you felt like an equal. Your business card had weight now. Literally. They invited you to speak at the industry conference. You almost said no. You stood on that stage without a single note. Just conviction that I am the front row. You saw yourself. 20 years younger. Your phone rang backstage. Number you didn't recognize. The caller said, "We want you to run the entire company." Though Chief Operating Officer, the number 2 seat in a $2 billion company. You had 36 hours to decide, and you hadn't even told your wife yet. You laid the offer on the table. She read it, then looked at you without blinking. She said, "Whatever you decide, we decide together." Then one morning, everything changed, and one morning, everything changed. Day one SEOO, a glass tower with your new name beside the door. First thing you put on the desk wasn't a laptop. It was a photo of your family .200 employees, and your hands were still shaking. You restructured 3 divisions in 6 months. $40 million in cost savings. The trade press started writing about you. You didn't read it. Then the CEO called you in, just the two of you, and closed the door. He said, "I'm stepping down in 18 months. I wanted to be you." You drove home in silence. You didn't eat dinner. For 3 months you prepared like there was no tomorrow. Then you found it. A $200 million liability nobody had disclosed to you. You confronted the CFO. He didn't deny it. He just looked at the table $200 million, hidden in a subsidiary footnote. On purpose, you had a choice. Cover it or blow open. This was the moment nobody prepares you for. Your mentor sent you one text. You read it 4 times. You walked back in, called the board chair directly. You laid out every number. Didn't editorialize. Just the truth. 3 hours later, the CFO resigned. You were still standing. You paid a price. The CEO's succession timeline was paused. Indefinitely. That night you sat by your son's bed for an hour, just watching him breathe. You wrote it down. I don't regret it. 1 year later, the board appointed you CEO because of what you had done, not despite your integrity. Because of it, you had 2 choices back then, and only 60 seconds to decide. You had 2 choices, and only 60 seconds to decide. Your first act as CEO, you brought the new intern into the boardroom. You showed him the view from the top and told him how far down it started, because someone once did it for you, 3 years in, for $0.2 billion in revenue, a Fortune 500 company. Forbes put you on the cover for the thing you almost didn't do. You made it to the graduation. No phone, no laptop, just you. And one night, alone in the boardroom, you asked a real question. Was a version of me that started this still in here somewhere? You found your old notebook, the goals you wrote at 22. Every goal. Checked, except one S. Oh, you went back to university. Not as a student, as a guest lecturer. And in the third row, that same young man from the conference. Your eyes met. No words, just an understanding. After the lecture, he handed you a resume, hand shaking, just like yours once did. You said 3 words back to him, the same 3 words that started everything. You have potential. The cycle continues. The company hit $5 billion in revenue that year. You still wore the same Seiko from your intern days. On purpose. Some things you never traded up. The next morning you were first in the office. Same as always, there was a new email about your successor. And it didn't scare you, because you already knew who it was going to be. The view hadn't changed. You had. What happened next, nobody saw it coming. What happened next, nobody saw it coming. The climb teaches you to want. The summit teaches you what to keep. Every level of this journey had one thing in common. The work was never the hardest part. The hardest part was deciding who you want to be on the way up, because the money, the title, the car, none of it outlasts your reputation. You can optimize your salary. You cannot optimize your integrity. Every single level will test whether you remember that. The version of you that started is the version that saves you at the top, and nobody tells you that on day one. Nobody that they'll show you the bonus structure, the org chart, the exit packages. But who you become at each level, that's entirely on you to. So here's the only question that actually matters. When you get to the top, will you still recognize yourself? If the story made you think, subscribe. Every week, a new level, a new story, a different version of you that could have been.